Welcome back to SoberKart. Mario Kart World is finally real. I was lucky enough to be invited to come play this game, and now it's time to dig in. Not just what Nintendo showed us, but how this game is actually going to play. You've probably already watched plenty of other videos, trailers, and maybe caught some additional breakdowns on editing tricks, but this video is going to be mostly about the mechanics, the driving, movement, and how Mario Kart World feels beneath the tire. Now, before we get too far, I want to be very clear. This analysis is based off of my personal experience playing the demo at the Switch 2 experience in Dallas. That version of the game had me locked at 100cc with auto acceleration and smart steering, both enabled by default. That means what I felt during gameplay might not fully reflect the final experience with all the assist offs or on higher speeds. Also, this is still a demo build, so while it's unlikely Nintendo will make huge mechanical changes this close to launch, everything in this video should be taken as an informed analysis, not final fact. That being said, I've gone frame by frame through all my footage, and there's still a lot that we can learn. From the way the terrain affects your kart speed, to new mechanics like charge jumps, grinding, wall riding, and how tricks and boosts interact. We're breaking it all down right here, so if you're wondering how Mario Kart will play, how it compares to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or what strategies might dominate Knockout Tour or time trials, you are in the right place. Let's get into it. Here's everything I've uncovered so far about the driving mechanics of Mario Kart World. The first thing that I want to point out, and I'm honestly shocked nobody else is talking about, is the true depth of the charge jump mechanic. Everyone online seems to think it's just a one-off mini-turbo hop, but that couldn't be further from the truth. If you hold the charge jump down, you'll see the boost flame change color, from blue to orange, just like the progression we've seen in mini-turbo to super mini-turbo in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And if that's true, there's a good chance that ultra mini charge jumps are also possible in Mario Kart World, once you turn off the smart steering. But what really stood out is what happens when you combine charge jumps with wiggle drifting. Yes, just like we used to do back in N64 in the good old double dash days, if you begin a charge jump and then quickly start micro-adjusting your drift angle, those boosts charge significantly faster. It's almost like it resets the charge rate, giving you quicker access to higher tier turbos. That brings us into drifting itself, which has undergone some serious changes. Soft drifting, the gentle lean in at around 55 degrees approach to build boost, doesn't seem to register at all in this demo. Wiggle drifting without a charge jump also didn't build turbos efficiently, if at all. The best result I got was from snapping into sharp 90-degree toggles, which seemed to fast-track turbo generation. And snaking? A really good way to get into last place. Totally inefficient, unless you're going for combo boost with super or ultra charge jumps, which I suspect will become the meta. And another major, possibly controversial change, you can no longer counter-hop mid-drift to change your direction. That's just gone. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and older titles, that was a critical technique, a way to adjust during the drift and hold your line. Without it, you're fully committing to your turn from the very beginning, which makes sharp turns riskier and highly technical. Wall riding is in, but a single mini charge jump off a wall doesn't seem to be very effective on its own. I suspect trick change or combo boost will be essential here to make these routes more viable. And lastly, when it comes to grinding, I was able to tilt the kart so it was grinding only on the front or rear tires. Not sure if it helps with charging boosts or speed, but it seems far too specific to just be visual flair. Definitely something worth testing more. Bottom line, standard drifting is dead. Unless it's for very sharp turns, this game is clearly encouraging more dynamic use of the new mechanics, especially the charge jumps and combo air tricks. Kind of feels more resemblance of Tony Hawk Pro Skater. One of the most noticeable changes to returning mechanics in Mario Kart World is how gliders feel. And first off, I've got to say the visual overall here is fantastic. The animations, the way gliders deploy, and even different styles all look really great. But once you're actually gliding, that's kind of where things get a little tricky. At least with smart steering enabled, I felt like I had very limited control during glider sections. Movement felt very heavily assisted, almost like the game was guiding me on a rail. That could be just the demo settings, but it's worth mentioning, especially if this carries over into the final. Now let's talk about multi-trick gliding. Yes, you can trick multiple times in the air, and while it doesn't seem to grant extra speed boost, it does help with directional adjustment mid-air. So while it's not a speed tech, it might become part of precision routing and map-specific optimization. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test out the motion glider or much of the glider vectoring because, again, the glider zones I played felt very controlled, Based on footage from other demos, though, it looks like vectoring might be gone entirely. The game seems to favor streamlined air movement rather than nuanced glider manipulation, which might be a loss for high-level players who love perfecting those angles. But a few more things. I tried drifting into a glider section and completely canceled my mini turbos, so that tech appears to be gone as well. I attempted a glider ramp hop, which still may save a few frames, but I had limited testing, so more analysis will be needed. And finally, on super bounce, based purely on feel, I think it might still be in the game. During the section with cloud bounces, I definitely felt that launch momentum, but I completely botched my timing, so I can't confirm anything yet, just kind of a hunch. Alright, let's take a break from that and talk about some items, because Mario Kart World is mixing it up in some surprising ways. First off, let's get the disappointment out of the way. I don't think I got a single feather, so I still don't know if this can be used to dodge a blue. But you still can dodge them with mushrooms, so no surprise there. But if you were worried about the charge jumping that could make shell dodging too easy, don't be. You really have to anticipate that hit ahead of time and time it perfectly. It's not just a free escape. Bullet pills, honestly, kind of nerfed. They feel slower. More importantly, they don't seem to blast through other racers anymore. They just kind of nudge them aside. The invincibility rate from when you get hit seems to be less than in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which I kind of like. The shock, we've already covered how it behaves differently, affecting only players in front and for a much shorter time. But the momentum loss here is brutal if it hits you mid-boost or while taking a shortcut. Plus, if you're gliding and get shocked, you still don't slow down, which I've always found weird, and yes, you still lose your items, but personally I think it should knock you out of the sky. Mega Mushrooms, surprisingly common in my experience. Comics Crystal Ball, item's kind of weird. Getting hit with it briefly seems to invert your controls, at least that's how it felt. But unless it's used in a tight area, doesn't seem to do much. Right now, it feels more like a visual gimmick over a competitive weapon, but we'll see if strategies emerge later. Hammers, you can throw them backwards, and in my opinion, they're more effective that way, great for guarding your rear or forcing players into alternate paths. The boomerang item felt everywhere, and wow, was it annoying. I got smacked by these constantly, and they're hard to predict due to their return arc. Feels like it might need a nerf, at least in how frequent they appear. And golden mushrooms. Holy hell. This is easily the most overpowered version I've ever seen in Mario Kart. If you time it correctly, it can completely change your race, especially in Knockout Tour where every second counts. This thing saved me from elimination at least once. And speaking of Knockout Tour, this is where things get really interesting from both a gameplay and game design perspective. From a development lens, Mario Kart World is clearly leaning hard into verticality and momentum-based gameplay. The courses feel layered with multiple elevation changes, free roam, potential, branching paths, and the ability to interact with terrain in ways that we haven't quite seen before. In terms of design, that changes how developers implement rubber banding, the classic catch-up mechanic Nintendo uses to balance races, and it looks like the system is evolving. Rather than simply handing you stronger items when you're behind, the game encourages strategic route timing, item timing, and positioning. The height of terrain and race structure means you're not just playing horizontally anymore, you're playing with altitude, environmental triggers, and timing-based aggression. That fundamentally alters how you approach the race, especially Knockout Tour where every lap counts. Now my personal take, Knockout Tour might be the most bagging-focused mode we've ever seen in a Mario Kart game, and here's why. If you're in the middle of the pack, you're getting shredded. Constant hits, no room to recover, and if you mistime your box or get greedy, you're toast. Meanwhile, back of the pack players, the baggers, can farm coins, build a loadout, and time their mystery box hits perfectly right before the checkpoints. Plus, blue shells can be dodged with mushrooms, which makes timing and inventory management critical. Mushroom-based shortcuts feel more like all or nothing gambles now. If you miss that timing or take it too early on a long straightaway, you'll lose all momentum. And it can cost you an elimination. Combine that with speed stacking mechanics and how coin collection works, which we're about to get into, you've got a game mode where positioning isn't everything, timing is. If Knockout Tour becomes the ranked online standard mode, I fully expect metastrats to develop around late game bagging and high efficiency route optimization. Now let's talk coins, and how this seemingly simple mechanic may be more critical than ever in Mario Kart World, especially in Knockout Tour. First, for context, in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the coin mechanic maxed out at 10 coins, and each coin added a marginal increase to your overall top speed. At 10 coins, you were hitting about a 6% top speed boost, not game-breaking on its own, but when paired with mini turbos, optimized driving lines, and boost items, it really mattered. The strategy in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was simple: grab your 10 coins early, then maintain. But in Mario Kart World, that strategy kind of gets thrown out the window. Here, the counter has been bumped from 10 to 20 coins, and based on my testing during the Knockout Tour, these coins don't just add passive speed, they seem to amplify your acceleration, your stacking, and post-boost momentum. My early guess, a full 20 coins might offer up to a 10% speed boost, but that's huge speculation for now. What I can say is that coin momentum in this game feels significantly more powerful, and it stacks with boosts in a way that's far more noticeable than ever before, at least on 100cc. But there's a twist. Getting coins while in the front of the pack is much harder now. They're sparse on the track, and the coin boxes seem to favor mid to back positions, with coin shells and coin blocks popping out more often from mystery boxes in those placements. That means front runners can't just cruise and collect anymore. You've got to earn your coin count the hard way, or time your box pools perfectly. And this brings us to the real layer of strategy: timing. Think of it like Fast and the Furious, when Paul Walker hits the NOS too early and Vin Diesel just smirks and says, "too soon." Combine that 20 coin threshold with a boost and a clean line, you're not just surviving an elimination checkpoint, you're probably slingshotting into the next round. In a mode where timing your movement is just as important as your position, coins have become more than just currency, they're kind of momentum fuel. I'm going to go ahead and show you a side-by-side gameplay comparison, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the left and Mario Kart World on the right. Now, when I first booted up Mario Kart World as the Switch 2 experience, I intentionally chose a kart setup that seemed at least statistically close to my go-to competitive build in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And obviously traction isn't shown in Mario Kart World, but the balance of speed, acceleration, and handling felt like a near match. On both screens, it'll be the same character, similar loadout, so this comparison is as direct as it gets. Both are set to 100cc with smart steering and auto acceleration enabled, just like the demo build of Mario Kart World. I wanted to simulate the most realistic test bed for what many players are going to experience, at least on launch. Now let's talk about drift control, because this is where the difference really starts to show. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, drift control is buttery smooth. You can adjust your drift angle mid-turn, swing tighter or wider, and make minor course corrections on the fly. It kind of feels intuitive, responsive, like an extension of your own precision. But in Mario Kart World, that flexibility just isn't really there. Once you initiate your drift, it locks you in far more rigidly. Adjusting your angle mid-drift feels stiff, and trying to snap to a sharper line, like you would in Deluxe, often results in overcommitting or understeering. You lose that fluid S-curve correction ability, which is going to force players to rethink their corner entry timing and braking approach entirely. On the speed front, both games actually feel comparable, in terms of 100cc baseline velocity anyways. Whether you're driving straight or chaining a few light tricks, the pacing is similar, and in terms of collision mechanics, bumping into another racer, hitting walls, or being struck by items, the feel and response in World is surprisingly close. It's familiar, but not identical. The other key difference is in glider control. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, glider segments give you tight vertical and horizontal control, and the ability to vector for max distance or optimal descent angles. But in Mario Kart World, especially with smart steering enabled, the glider feels kind of sluggish. You have less range, slower turning, and at times it feels kind of like the glider is driving you. That said, there is a new counter mechanic in World, the air trick redirection. If you pull off an air trick mid-glide, you can slightly shift your positioning. It's not as precise as Deluxe's glider steering, but it partially compensates for the control gap, and I suspect that mastering this will be critical. So overall, Mario Kart World and MK8 Deluxe may look similar on the surface, but they feel very differently, especially when it comes to cornering, air control, precision inputs. The mechanical identity of World seems to be pushing players towards an entirely new type of flow. Before we go ahead and wrap this thing up, I want to quickly touch on a few more things that I noticed during my actual demo playthrough. Smaller mechanical details that haven't gotten quite much attention yet, but may have major implications on how this game actually plays. First up, during my run on Bowser's Castle, I noticed something kind of odd, or pretty cool. Throughout a certain section of the track, there are these electrical transmitter poles on both sides of the road. But here's the kicker: while racing through the stretch, I was constantly boosting. Like visually confirmed, you can see the blue turbo flames under my kart, and they never shut off. This makes me wonder, are there now track sections that act as permanent boost zones? Could Nintendo be experimenting with boost panel replacements, or some type area-based passive boost system tied to course design? Definitely something to keep an eye on. Another detail I tested out: not every wall is worth grinding on if it's a little bumpy. And also, yeah, not every grinding rail type object can actually be grinded. Can't just launch onto everything that remotely curved. There are also floating islands and NPC-filled areas with things like warp pipes and item boxes that appear to be inaccessible during the Grand Prix races, but they're fully modeled. I can't help but think that these are maybe teasers for certain free roam or story mode aspects, maybe just specific missions. They're too detailed to just be background. Also, why Lakitu picks you up and immediately drops you into a glider launch zone, I'll never really understand. Kind of feels like Nintendo's trolling us here on this one. And for anyone who's saying Lakitu, you're just wrong. It's been Lakitu, Nintendo has said it. You're probably also calling Mario's brother Luigi. Get it together, Lakitu's been hollowing us out of pits since 1985. Show the man some respect. One mechanic I tested and was a little bummed about, you can't boost into bullies to knock them out of the way like I kind of at least anticipated. Now let's talk off-road. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, going off-road basically kills your momentum instantly, even after like a trick boost, but in Mario Kart World, there's a little more leniency. Boosts like trick hops or charge jumps will still slow you down if you go off-road, but not immediately. You get a bit of wiggle room to correct yourself and get back on track. It's subtle, but it's going to make precision off-road recoveries a lot more viable than they ever used to be. And finally, after spending time with Mario Kart World, I've got to say, at first glance, it kind of looked like it played very similarly to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but after actually playing it hands-on, that's not entirely true. Yes, the polish is there, the camera angles, the item layout, the familiar chaos, it all feels very Mario Kart. But the way this game drives, the way the movement mechanics work, how you manage momentum, boosts, and items, this is shaping up to be a different experience. In fact, if I had to describe it, I'd say Mario Kart World feels like a blend of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Double Dash. It takes the smooth visuals and handling from the modern era, but injects some quirky unpredictability and mechanical nuance that feels like a love letter to older titles. Maybe this was Nintendo's plan all along, to pull the best parts from every era of Mario Kart and smash them into one ultimate entry. Whatever the case may be, I am all in on this game. I'm already counting the days until that midnight release, and you better believe I'll be there, day one, racing, testing, and breaking down everything we discover from the full release. So if you're hyped like I am, hit that like button, drop a comment with any questions or thoughts that I may have not got to in this video, and of course, please subscribe to the channel for more deep dive, gameplay analysis, and SoberKart style chaos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the track. Let's-a go.